when you were source, and you see this in the past tense, because right now you're a linear incarnated being, so looking back into your past, when you were source, as in God, you know, the creator, when you were in that moment, talking in a linear sense, you came to an awareness that you were a conscious being. As you explored this, you then questioned whether you were a conscious being. So basically you said to yourself, I am, which is the primordial sound of creation, I am. And there's an instant mirror, a response to that, which is, am I? So from that point of view, consciousness wanted to know if it's conscious. So it needed to discover this in this pulse of energy. So translating this into our language, consciousness, which was you, source, wanted to experience all and everything, every single vibration that there is. And there are an infinite number of vibrations. The vibration is infinite. There is no end to the experience. So consciousness wants to know if it's conscious. And that's why the schism happened, and that's why everything happened, because we're experiencing all and everything in all these different fragmented parts of source, a never-ending journey in every single possible combination that you can imagine. That's the answer.
What were we thinking?
I mean, you can look at more linear responses, as in, why did I come to this planet, and why am I here, and why am I doing this mission? But the ultimate answer is because consciousness wants to know if it's conscious. And has that question been answered? Well, it wasn't, and it didn't. It's a pulse of pure creation, pure consciousness. And that pulse, as it moves outwards, if you like, into its exploration, it didn't know what it was. It's alone. It's just one being, thinking by itself, alone, not knowing and wanting to know. So we translate that pulse as a question. It was originally a statement. The pulse is a statement, as in I am. I exist. I am. I exist. But then there's a distortion from that original pulse. There's a reflection. There's a split. Just like cell division. One cell becomes two. And the mirror is, am I? So we would translate that to a question. Am I conscious? I am consciousness. Am I? Or are you? We use the words I am because they are the powerful translations of the pulse. That's why when anyone who's studying sort of spirituality says, I am that I am, that's because they're owning that aspect that is source. So that very, very first pulse of consciousness is a statement. I am, I exist. And then when it splits into two, am I? Then there's a third question. Let's discover. Let's experience all and everything. And when you move into this 0 point field and access memory, you go through these different memories, as in, I remember being in this incarnation, I remember living on this planet, I remember being this non-physical being, I remember being this winged angel. And as you work with these memories, you will come to a point where you remember being source, because every single one of us is source. You will literally remember being that pulse. And the only reason why I know this translation is, yes, I've communicated with the nine, but I remember being that pulse, and I've held that memory in a conscious state since I was born. Many people have, some don't. Some completely go through amnesia and forget. When I was a child, I didn't know what the memory meant, but it's been there since birth with me, and I've met other people who are the same. And if you move into that 0 point, you'll find it. You'll find the memory. So that's where the knowing comes from. So really, it is all about the exploration of consciousness. Consciousness wants to know if it's conscious. And has that question been answered? The answer is it's infinite. So when you look at a linear line of consciousness, you can see this beginning point, this innocent pulse, this innocent energy that wants to explore all and everything. It's totally naive and innocent. And then once it's been through all these incarnations and all these experiences and all these energies, and all these souls individualize and come back together in the group soul and experience this, that and the other, then it comes to the end point, which is an all-knowing, omnipresent, omnipotent energy. But that's only in a linear sense. The truth of the matter is you bring them both together. The all-innocence and the all-knowing are one pulse at the same time. It is not linear. There is no statement and no question. It's just one moment. The translation of that one moment is the statement and the response and the question. Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you come into this vibration, particularly this planet, with the system the way it is, with memory of everything, you would find it incredibly difficult to survive here. To have memory of your other lifetimes and all the people you knew, because other lifetimes, memories of other lifetimes aren't all just rosy. Oh, I was this wonderful, really superb spiritual monk living under a willow tree. It's not. Your past lives are about death and pain and loss and grief. So to hold all those memories in one moment all through your life, you couldn't function in the third dimension. So amnesia has to occur for you to be separate, because the memories, they're not just about linear memories of grief and pain, they're actually about unity and oneness. When you move back into that memory of being that energy, that pulse, that source, it's a memory of unity. But you've come here to experience separation. And what you've actually come here to experience is to experience separation, realise that separation is not what you want, and then move into unity from a separate being. You've come here to experience source from being a consciousness that is so far removed from source, because you are so utterly separate physically. We're not all joined together as one organism. We're physically separate organisms, and we've come here to remember that we're all one and that we're all unified. So in order to do this, we have to start off from an amnesiac state and awaken to those memories in a way that our third dimensional organic structure can deal with. But there is another perspective, and that could be that you could incarnate with memory, you could incarnate with many, many memories, and that there were beings who didn't want us to have our memories, they didn't want us to evolve, because they come from a very different agenda. That agenda is for control of others, rather than moving into a unity and a oneness. They want to be the unified oneness from the separate being. So their agenda is very much, I want to experience God, and I want to be God in this one moment. I want to be God as in, I am master of all I survey. I control everything. I lead everything. That's a different agenda. That's the service to self agenda. So there is a perspective where service to self beings prevented your memories. They took your memories from you and created an incarnation, a situation where you incarnate, where you've forgotten everything. Both of these perspectives are true. From one perspective, the journey here to this reality, it's been infiltrated, we've had our memories taken away, this is a prison planet, we've been forced to incarnate against our will. You'll hear these people say all these things, and when they're only saying that, that's a distortion. Because if you only believed that, you are locked into this perpetuating cycle of constant reincarnation against your will in a prison planet and having our memories stolen. When you take that knowing, that belief system, that paradigm, and then marry it up with the other perspective that's just as true, which is, we chose to come here, we chose to have our memories removed from us, we chose to experience separateness so we could move into unity. This is a planet of freedom, this is a planet of choice. We incarnated here because we wanted to. Both of these perspectives are true simultaneously. And it depends on where you are in your development on a physical level as to what perspective you will experience. So, for example, if you take a non-aware individual who hasn't woken up spiritually, who's suffering and linked into the system, the metaphor to this would be when that person leaves their physical body, when they pass over, because they haven't worked on themselves on a spiritual level, they haven't moved into expansion and awareness and ascension and enlightenment, what will happen to them is their soul leaves the body, they move into an individualized aspect, non-physical aspect, they move into what's known as the fourth dimension. Within that fourth dimension, we have this false matrix, we have these false traps set up, if you like. They're caught in these traps, they're caught in this false matrix, and then they're rebounded back into incarnation against their will. Then we can look at someone who has become aware, who has, and they don't even need to be spiritually aware, just good people, lived a life of service and love, tried to do the best that they could possibly do, they're healers, but people who are spiritually aware, who've worked with ascension, moved into enlightenment, these individuals go through a very different experience. When they leave their physical body, they come into an individualized point of perspective. They instantly know what's happened to them. They instantly move into an awareness and they join this higher aspect. They move right over the fourth dimension, through the fourth dimension, bypass these traps. There are no traps. There is no prison planet. There is no setup. You only create in your reality what you expect to create through the vibration that you are, whether you're conscious of it or not. So these individuals will create a very different reality. They'll go fifth, sixth, they'll go above these traps, they'll move into this place where they analyse everything, they may go back to the source, wherever it was that they came from, and there's another perspective where they just simply go right back to source because that's the memories that they have, and then they choose whether to come back into incarnation. Or there's another perspective where the higher guidance system makes the choice for them because they're a loving soul, but they haven't got to a point of individualization yet. So the higher collective, the group soul, makes the choice for them. If they've moved into an individualized point of perspective, they make the choice themselves, but they're not trapped. They come back here of their own free will. All of this is in the Masters of the Matrix book. It kind of explains all this. So what's difficult is there are so many different perspectives of truth, and when you look at the spiritual community and all the teachers, you've got all these different teachers saying all these different things, and often their followers and people that read their books, they'll all be arguing amongst each other saying it's a prison planet. No, it's not, it's full of joy. Don't feel fear, that's really bad. It's okay to feel fear. You have all these issues, and yet all these perspectives are true. You know, I've actually come across these discussions on forums and everything, and I've said to the nine, which one's right? This person or this person. And what they say is when you move into a multidimensional way of thinking, there is no either or. It is always both. And you expand through seeing these opposing perspectives. You think, well, this and this, they're opposing. One of the big arguments is God is outside of you. No, he's not, he's inside you. You are God. No, you're not, he's outside of you. That goes on and on. Of course, it's both. So when you can see the perspective of both of these, you expand into this higher dimensional way of thinking, which is your right. If you want to go from the perspective of where you had these memories and this DNA formation taken from you, it is your right to reconstruct this. It is your right to move back into those memories. Because you are a sovereign being, you are moving into what we know on this planet as a genius. A genius is not some amazing, far-off being like an Albert Einstein, you know, and that we can never ever be like him because he was just unbelievably so clever, and we're not like that. Every single one of us can move into that pattern of genius, and we do this through expanding our mind and expanding our thinking and expanding our paradigms. So we are moving into a situation where we will be able to hold more memories. We can then go on and have incarnations where we do remember. And we will have had those incarnations in the past. There was a time when beings would incarnate and they'd have a lot more memory. They wouldn't necessarily hold all the memory in one moment, but they would be able to access memory when they wanted to. Other planetary systems have that. So we're moving into that. That's what this whole ascension is about, is us going back to what we once had, and that is full memory in that way. And so, everyone in this room is already on that journey. Everyone in this room is already reconstructing those memories. Yes, but sometimes it's easier said than done. We can easily say we create our reality. It's very easy to say, if I want this reality, all I have to do is create it. But we find a way of living this, and we do this through our experience, and we do this by embracing our experience, not pushing it away, and that includes the tough stuff. That includes the dark stuff, and the in fact, it's because of that. If we lived a life of bliss, if I were to sit here now and say to you, my whole life I've just been, rich, beautiful, slim, healthy, really happy, and my life's just been total bliss from birth, you'd all be sitting here thinking, well, that's great for you, but I can't relate to you. You're so far removed from me that, wonderful, but you become a guru figure. And that isn't what spiritual teaching is about. Everyone is a spiritual teacher, and they teach through their own lives. And I can sit here and honestly say to you, I've messed up, and I've had problems and challenges, and they're still happening now. Going through the material in the Masters of the Matrix, there's one teaching that teaches you how to go through the integration of negative emotions. And one of the most powerful tools is gratitude. And last month, I had a situation in my life where I absolutely had no gratitude whatsoever. My father, diagnosed with dementia 2 years ago, he got a lot worse last month, and the care package was not sufficient for him. So I had all these meetings with doctors and social workers and everything, and I was so worried about what would happen because the care wasn't adequate at home. I knew he needed to go into a situation where he could have 24/7 care, a residential home. However, I know that some of them can be not that good, and I'm wanting a nice one, and I'm so worried about my dad, who has been a massive influence on my life and been one of the greatest mentors I've ever had, and one of the most fantastic men I've ever known. So I'm sat there so worried and so stressed and in a state of grief because I've lost my dad, and now someone else has replaced my dad through the dementia. He isn't the person he was, so I'm grieving for my lost dad. I'm worried about the future. I'm very stressed. I'm going through all these emotions. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I wrote this book, and it's all very well me sitting there on the radio interviews and doing talks saying, feel gratitude, that's the key, it's amazing, which I have said. But now I'm in a situation where I have to actually do it myself. And I'm like, I can't, because I'm not the slightest bit grateful for this situation. I'm not. It's horrible, and I'm not grateful. So I'm sat there talking to the 9. But I've got them there with me, and they're very, very kind, and they don't push, but I'm fully aware, intellectually, that gratitude is the key, and that I had to find a way to be grateful. So I worked on this, I worked on this myself. I took some time, and I took some time off work to work on the physical situation with helping my dad. The care was awful, so I was going around there caring for him myself, subsidising what the carers weren't doing, and trying to find gratitude for this situation, and it was really, really difficult. And finally I did. I found a way to genuinely feel gratitude. I kept working on this, and eventually I went into gratitude. And I use, if you're an actor, an actress on the stage, and you have to portray a character within your production, within this particular play, you need to portray a particular emotion. The way you portray that emotion to the audience, in order for it to be believable, is for you to feel it. And luckily I've done lots of drama in my life, and ever since I was a child, acting was my thing. So for me, and I do, recommend this for other people, it's not necessarily easy, and there are many ways to do it, but for me, finding the emotion as if I were an actress. Okay, I've got to play this role, and I have to feel absolute gratitude as I'm saying these lines. So I'll find the false gratitude, if you like, of an actor, hold it within, and then move it into the space of the emotions I'm feeling. I'm so grateful for this situation. I'm so grateful that my dad is in this situation and he needs more care. I'm so grateful for the grief, and thank you for these emotions. Thank you for the chance to feel these emotions. And once I'd got the gratitude, and I intellectually knew that this was the key, so I carried on holding them. And I'm not kidding you. Within one day, I found a lovely residential home, 5 minutes from my house, with everything my father wanted, the ensuite and the big room and the window, with lovely carers that are communicating with me, and it all fell into place. I was despairing that I would ever find the right place, and I found it within one day of feeling the gratitude. So it does work, and I can honestly say I have actually done the recommended procedure that the 9 teach in Masters of the Matrix. I've actually done it myself. It was really hard. But it worked. It worked. That's a really, really good question. If you are genuinely an actor and you are on stage portraying a character and genuinely feeling the emotion, the universe will know that you are portraying a character. It's because you could be playing a character that's murdering someone and that's feeling so distorted inside and so tormented and such rage that you're killing someone. You don't want to manifest that into your reality. So the universe is aware of the creative space. And there is like a safety zone for actors to be able to portray these emotions without manifesting them. Now, having said that, there are some actors that have gone out of side of that bubble and have manifested. And you might read about situations where a horror film is being produced and some awful thing happens on the set that's related to the material in the script. So it can happen. But with me personally, what I do is get into the zone as an actor and then move into the real emotions. Then the universe doesn't differentiate because you're feeling the gratitude. Then what you will do, if you use the matrix as an analogy, you are putting the code of gratitude, the emotional code, it's like a feed system from your emotions, your energy system into this matrix. You're feeding it. I mean, it's all part of you. It's just a metaphor to say you're feeding it into the matrix. The matrix is you. But you feed this in. So you're feeding in gratitude. That's setting in this 6th dimensional reality, moving down into the 5th, 4th. When it sets in the 3rd, it will create a match. So you will create an environment or a situation that matches gratitude. So it's a situation for you to be grateful for. For me, the intention was also to do with my father, so within a day I manifested the right residential home. That doesn't mean the challenges have ended in that situation. There might be a new one. You know, next month one of the carers might be a bit mean to my dad, and then I'm going to have to work that issue out. But that particular moment, and I'm not saying for you to hold gratitude in your heart 24/7. It's very difficult to do this because when a challenge comes in, we feel the emotion that matches it, which is why the 9 say that feeling fear and grief and anger and jealousy, it's not bad. The integration of those emotions are what teaches you how to move into these higher emotions. They're used as a springboard into the higher emotions. And that goes back to your question and the whole learning and why we're separate and, you know, what are we doing here in the first place as physically incarnated beings, because we are, all our experience goes back to source so that it can move from this all innocence to all knowing. So we're taking our place in that sort of macrocosm, that greater cosmic part of ourselves, with every single thing that we experience every day. Because the 9 will say, and they say this a lot, when you look at the incarnation of source on a non-linear level and project that into the 3rd dimension, there's only one soul in incarnation. So all the beings, all the non-physical beings are rooting for you, because you're the only one here. That's why you've got such a team around you of non-physical beings. They're all around you because you're the only one. We're all the same soul. And when we sit here in this circle now, what we're looking at when we look at one another is another incarnation of ourselves in another reality, in an alternate timeline. They just happen to be incarnated into this reality at the same time as us. So we've all been one another from that point of view. We've all experienced the reality of one another, but that's from the viewpoint of source experiencing all and everything. It's not a linear viewpoint. On a linear level, we're all separate souls experiencing a linear journey. But on a multidimensional level, we're all the same soul. So it's good to hold all those viewpoints, because then that takes us into expansion, and we're able to look at the situation, able to look at different situations and work out the meanings of those situations. That doesn't mean those dark challenges and those negative issues aren't going to happen, because they will. But it does give you a bit of a plus, really. It gives you the tools to be able to deal with them. And I can tell you now, the minute that you wake up to this energy, these negative situations and challenges in your life will become temporary rather than a permanent situation. People keyed into the system are permanently in grief or anger or stress or sorrow or frustration or jealousy. And it's huge right now. You've only got to look at the political situation in this country and in Europe and in America, and the people are horrendously divided and angry and furious and worried about the situation. And so it's a permanent thing. When you become spiritually aware, you can feel these, but it's transient. You move through it quicker, you analyse it quicker, you come out the other side, which means you're having a lot of time spent experiencing joy. And the joy is what leads you to experiencing the fullness of this reality. Because this reality can be absolutely dreadful, but it can also be absolutely beyond amazing. So that's how we choose. But it's easier said than done. As I said, we use our situations in our life to actually help us to create our reality. Great question, and it is both of those. It is both of those from different parts of ourselves. We will know from the sort of group soul, multidimensional aspect what we are letting ourselves in for. We will be aware of the blueprint and the challenges and the darkness and everything else. But there is another aspect of us which is more of the individualized soul coming in a state of service. There's an innocence there. Because from that point of view, that non-physical soul isn't in a linear incarnation. So just like we can't really remember what it's like to be in a non-linear incarnation, but we begin to access those memories, they can't necessarily remember what it's like to be in a physical incarnation. And from one point of view, they've never been in a physical incarnation. So they can't really know what they're letting themselves in for from that point of view. So in all innocence and in all service, they go in, even though there will be some kind of instruction, translate that energy into, this is what will happen, you will lose your memories, you might potentially not ever remember that you're a starseed and that you're from the 7th dimensional, wherever, but there will be this assistance will be given, but you will have triggers. There will be triggers for you. You will have soul-connected individuals around you. Even though you will be separate for this part of your life and feel alone and lonely, and everyone will think you're crazy, there'll become a point here where you'll gather together and you will have support. So you're armed with all this. You don't fully know until you experience. When you look at the blueprint before you are incarnated, it's like, okay, that's my blueprint. But you can't really understand the blueprint unless you're down here living it. But when you're down here living it, if you forget that there's a blueprint, you can't link with the aspect that sees the blueprint before it's born. What you have to do is remember that you are this other aspect and you work together. So you've got you down here living this blueprint and the higher self up there, if you like, guiding you through the blueprint. You work together, and that's the guidance system. That's the matrix, that's the collective, the angels, the spirit guides, of service to others polarization. They are the light beings that are pure unconditional love, and they're with us. We can also call darker entities if we want to, as we work to integrate. We would need to integrate everything. We don't just want to integrate the light beings, we need to integrate the darker beings as well. But on a linear journey spiritually, it's advisable to work with the light beings first and get a really good connection with them. So you build up a trust and a love, and once you have that trust, then you'll be ready to step into more negative territory, and that comes with the path. So, but it's both. The answer's both. You'll hear a lot of people say, oh, I remember before I incarnated to come here, and I really wanted to come here, but once I was here, I realised, put me back, I made a big mistake, and that's, a lot of people will say that. There are people also genuinely who have become spiritually aware. They're fully aware of the situation, and they don't want to be here. They get to the point where they think, I do not want to be on this planet, and who can blame them? And pretty much every spiritually aware person will have had this thought at some point in their journey. They will have thought, this isn't for me, it's not where I want to be, this is the wrong planet, it's horrible, I'm too sensitive for this planet. And that is normal for them to think that. So to the point where they will say, I want to go home, pick me up. I mean, you'll even have people genuinely wanting to end their lives because they haven't come to terms with the fact that they are living in a dimension that is just too dense for them. But what the Nine would say there is, from the point of view of the aware individual, from that point of view, that individual made a choice. We're not looking at a prison planet scenario when an individual becomes aware, especially when they're thinking fifth dimensionally. They will have made a choice. So when you remember the choice, and you remember, hang on a minute, yes, I don't want to be here, but I came here for a reason. I came here to help people, I came here to raise the vibration of this planet, I came here to assist with the ascension process, and I know that when I get on my mission and I complete my mission and I live my mission, I'm integrating my soul and I'm sending information back to Source to assist Source from becoming all innocence to all knowing. So when you understand all these different missions on different levels, you then start to enjoy being here because you know it's temporary. One day you will be back home, and then you'll have got the choice of the whole universe where you want to go. And once you do it from an aware position, you're not controlled by anything or anyone. You choose. You choose your incarnation, you choose where you want to go, you choose the blueprint. But you've got to do it here first to get to that point. And it's easier said than done. But anyone taking a spiritual path, they will come to this point. And all the things they go through on the way, they're sharing it with so many others. This is a collective ascension. So there are so many others going through the same thing. You're not doing it on your own anymore, which is how it has been done in the past on this planet. People have gone through ascension processes on their own or in small groups. We're going through it massively. It's the biggest collective ascension so far for this planet in this particular time period. That's why it's such an exciting process and such a new process from that point of view. Because what's being done right now, from that perspective, has never been done before. A lot of these individuals have come in, if you like, from a different dimension or a different planetary system, and they bring a certain vibration here, and they do it in such service, which is why they're so evolved and why the DNA is already activated, because their entire life is pure service, because they do it for us. The people then will learn and see these individuals as a mirror. One learning may be, I don't want to be that. That is not what I want to be, therefore I'm glad I'm this. Another learning may be, that person is suffering, I feel compassion, I want to help this person. So they're triggering, and when it comes to really horrible things like, people abusing people with special needs, that is one of the most dense negative vibrations in this reality that will trigger incredibly high compassion. It also triggers an awareness of the dark negative energy and the absolute intention to stop it. So these souls are triggering so much in us. They are here in absolute service to the rest of the individuals, and they are activated, you're right. Absolutely, absolutely, because the soul is intact regardless of the body. It's like with my father with dementia, even though on a physical level my father's gone and been replaced by somebody else, on a soul level he's exactly the same person, and luckily my father was a very metaphysically thinking person who taught me so much. So even with the dementia, I'm able to bypass the dementia and get into the soul aspect of him in fleeting moments and speak metaphysically. Got these carers laughing when they hear this person with dementia talking about, oh, that's what Deepak Chopra says, you know, while he's trying to tie his shoelaces. I mean, it's just the same thing. People with special needs have got profound insight, and many of them are very sensitive and very psychic. They have memories, and they're unable to express that, but many of them are far more evolved than, you know, these individuals that are locked into the system, and they are here to, in service to us. Many of them hold this blue ray energy and crystal energy. It creates like a network across the planet, and it's without them we wouldn't have the ability to feel the compassion that we do. So that they're really very symbolic, and more and more of these souls have been coming in over the last few years. But it also shows the darker energies within the physical level in many ways. For example, it shows about the dark side of medication. Is orthodox medication right? Might it be that a pregnant woman took this medication that created that problem in the child, that issue in the child? It could be to do with vaccinations. You know, so we've got a lot of awareness of many different levels of issues within the system that are brought to light by these souls.
Well, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Magenta.
We are now at a time in our planetary evolution known as ascension. Those individuals we can call starseeds are currently in their millions and are collectively going through this awakening process. In this book, the 9 bring forward memory triggers designed to act as a catalyst into the awakening process. They present a model of working with the individualized matrix field, known also as the Merkaba, through matrix architecture, Merkaba magic, and the golden triad of ascension, presenting an in-depth analysis and explanation of the twin flame consciousness and how this relates to the ascension, as well as providing triggers to the collective memory experience known as Atlantis. This transmission is designed to trigger your multi-dimensional memory as you begin the construction of the Merkaba matrix and embrace the inner archetype of the architect. The triggers contained within this material are there to assist you in accessing the codes for the new formation of the original crystalline DNA matrix. I, Magenta Pixie, am so happy to present this transmission to you from the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9, Divine Architecture and the Starseed template.